This ain't no way to start a new year. Last night in the bright lights, it all seemed so clear. You were my new star, fresh face, full of hope. But it all seems the same now that we're here. You touch me again if you like. You touch me if you want to fight. Just please don't leave. Goddamn, I wish it was still New Year's Eve. Goddamn, I wish it was still New Year's Eve.
Today I got Cory Cross. How are we doing today, brother?
Doing good.
Yeah, I heard about your brother Chris, what he did to applesauce. I hate to hear it, man, but
Yeah,
it
we
takes
love
some
it.
skill to cross applesauce. So
We love it.
no, I'm kidding. You do sound, dude. You could be a magician. Like you could do. I think you should start adding magic to your shows because if Cory Cross was on a board,
Yeah.
I believe that you were about to do some like hoodoo voodoo type crazy magic on us, man.
Well, I used to be obsessed with magic. When I was in like third grade, I checked out like so many magic books. I was into like magic and alchemy and just a weird little dude. I still know how to do a few like card tricks.
Weird. That's normal. That's a normal thing to be as a child.
I know one really good card trick. It's pretty impressive. I used to do it in jail, and that was like my thing. That's like how I won over people. Like in jail, is I would do these card tricks, and I'd have these dudes like tattooed all over their faces, and just like hardcore dudes, and they'd be like, "Yo!" like running around the day room.
That's a clip.
Yeah,
I did not expect it to be this early, but I love that, dude.
yeah,
Yeah, and throughout all this, dude, I think a lot of people they're much how do I say this? Like I want to talk about that part of your life, but I also for this episode, I really love for anywhere you'd like to throw that in, do it. I just know that you've probably been asked about it a lot. People have also probably tried to make it like the point of your talk, and to me, it's who you are. But also with our faith, you don't just keep pulling the same person up to talk about like what happened in their past. Like that's why I wanted to focus on like right now because also I don't know anything. I mean, I got thrown in a holding cell and they messed up my last name, I'm pretty sure, so there's no file on me. So I'm
dude.
kind of an outlaw of outlaws, man, because they don't even know I'm in there. Also, screw Oklahoma. I will never drive through that state again. But anyway, so you're more than free. Like I love going into that. I just want you to know there's not gonna be any questions on that. So throw it in. We love hearing about it, and I think also these people need to hear about it. But know that I'm not gonna push you to do any of that.
You got
So, uh, speaking of people who are here for you, you have a strong social media following, and I'm one of those people that came from that of seeing some. Started seeing these memes, and I was like, okay. Then I started listening to music, and I was like, okay. And
yeah.
then I just became a fan, and then all of a sudden we started talking back and forth, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden we're here. Like
Yeah.
we
Here we are.
we now see each other regularly. We try to collab whenever we can, and I think that's my favorite part of all of this social media stuff is camaraderie. But what would you, on one side, say your favorite and least favorite thing of social media is, and where did it start?
Yeah, social media it can be a very useful tool. I'm grateful for it personally because it's helped uh, get my music out to people like you, which is my primary goal when using social media is to connect people to my music, which the music is the priority. But there's also been like other benefits like yeah, I mean, I guess it all has to do with music, but just meeting people and, out at the honky tonks or whatever and other artists, art, designers, musicians, all sorts of stuff. Uh, social media also can be really, I think, cringe and also kind of damaging, to your soul. So I think my favorite part about it is that it has helped connect me to people, which is a beautiful thing. My least favorite part is there's a lot of like just negative and like
Hmm.
just like insecurities and fears and all that stuff can really be bred through just scrolling. So I, like everybody, I get into the bad habit of just scrolling, and that's my least favorite part is when it's like 45 minutes later and I'm like, what did I just watch for 45 minutes? So
Yeah, I had never really had an issue with doom scrolling. I heard all about that, and I understood brain rot, so I was like, yeah, I know all the memes, blah blah blah. But I only in the past like 2 weeks, and it's been bad, man. But like, I finally understand doom scrolling because it would hit, yeah, like 45 minutes, and I would be like, holy. And the worst feeling is when you just like uh, pan back out to the original video and then you remember how long you've been there and you're
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
man,
kind of like the Vietnam meme of like the dog staring off with everything
yeah,
in the background. Like,
yeah.
oh, it's terrible. And that's the thing too is we don't even know the full extent of what it's going to do to our brains. We only know like so much.
True. And yeah, I mean, I'm on the road so much, and we're like, we're doing sound check at 3 o'clock, and maybe we don't play until 9 o'clock. And so there's a lot of like sitting around and waiting in my life. And so that's when I'll just pick up my phone and, so, but I got on, I mean, obviously I had like, I used to book shows using MySpace back in like 2000 and like 7 or 8, like the first few years that I was booking. And this was like coffee shops and like, just like,
Wow.
this is when I was doing like singer songwriter stuff. You could actually upload your own music if you had a MySpace for artists. So I had recorded like this little 4-song acoustic EP that I had uploaded to MySpace, and that's how I booked shows. So social media and my like music career has always been pretty linked. But then what changed stuff for me was TikTok. And it was like 3 years ago, and I was like, okay, let me try it out. Let me start just posting a little bit as an attempt to get people to listen to my music. And I was like, if it doesn't work, if it doesn't like, if my listeners don't go up, or if people don't start coming to the shows, then I'm not going to keep trying. But it worked. And so, I'll keep doing it until, God tells me to stop or it stops.
Yeah, that's do you have any fans still from your MySpace days?
Not MySpace. No, no, that's,
That would be insane.
that would,
That's really sick though.
yeah, that would be crazy. But
I had never heard about that.
yeah, you could, yeah, I would send, so you have this thing when you're booking shows, and it's like an electronic press kit. And it's basically just like a link that you send to venues so they can get an idea of who you are and then like listen to your music. And, so now I have like a professional website. But back then I would just link my MySpace, and it had my pictures, had like a little bio, and it had like 2 or 3 songs and some like videos. Yeah. So that's how I did it back in the day when I lived in.
I don't know why I'm so impressed by that. Like MySpace having those options, you'd think like some of the things social media is doing today, how revolutionary they are. But that for MySpace, I mean, a lot of it too is you had to code it yourself. Like that was a lot of work probably, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the fact that they had that all the way back then. That's good on MySpace. Holy cow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I think the first video I saw of yours, I could be wrong, but I think the first video was what was it? You're walking through the parking lot in LA and you see Walmart or whatever, and you're like, I'm back in the promised land or something because the South's with me or something like that.
Yeah, actually, I think it was Palm Springs. I was in Palm Springs. We were on tour heading out west from Texas, going out to California. We stopped in Palm Springs, and it's like the most beautiful scene. It's like these gorgeous mountains and stuff.
Hmm.
And then I was at a Walmart. I think it was something like when you're at the most beautiful place in the country and you still end
Yeah.
up at Walmart because you're a redneck or something. Yeah.
Being from Arkansas, but I'm a huge Walmart fan. And now being in Texas, man, it's like Bronx. The farther you get away from the home, like sucks. And everyone here hates on Walmart. And I'm like, hey, I'm shopping local. I'm
Yeah.
shopping local, guys. I stay at Walmart.
Yeah.
But who would you say has been your biggest like? I don't even know what you're up to. And to be honest, I don't think we need to say because you and I probably we care about numbers, but we also don't care. But you're up there, and I'm just curious, like who has been your biggest? I guess like not it's not a fan moment, but you know what I'm saying. It's in like it makes you feel like an influencer when you got to collab with a special someone, and you're like they were I thought they would never talk to me, and now like I got to
Yeah.
work with that person, and they're really cool.
Yeah. I get, I think yeah, I understand the question. Um, I mean, when and we're talking about like in relation to social media.
Yeah.
So I had like Pat Green followed me. That was crazy for me, because Pat Green really was. I mean, he was such a huge force in me like deciding to write my own music because like Pat Green. I mean, growing up in Fort Worth, country music is all around. So
Mm-hmm.
so growing up, I listened to George Strait and Alan Jackson and all those guys, and it was just always around, but it wasn't until I was like 15 or 16 when I started exploring country music, on my own. And it was right around when like Texas country was getting huge and Pat Green was like, I mean, he was the man. And I remember hearing his song Carry On, and there's a line about getting high. And I'm 16 and I love getting high. And so I was like, wait, you can listen to country music and you can get high. This is so cool. And so I started listening to Pat Green, and you know, hearing him sing about like Towns Van Zandt and Guy Clark, that got me into like those guys, and then Robert O'Keefe and all that stuff. And so Pat Green was really like, I mean, he was the door for me. And so seeing him follow me and liking some of my videos, and I got to open for him, a few months ago. That was crazy. So that was a cool moment that happened kind of on social media.
Yeah, I do. That's what I will say I do love about the Texas scene is how, especially around Fort Worth, that's why I love being here. Shout out Retro Hat Company. We're Fort Worth it. Um, but it's so casual here. Like
Hmm.
these guys don't walk around security. People
Hmm.
are fans, but they're respectful,
Yeah.
and they can just be hanging out. Like I don't know if I'm supposed to say I've driven Pat Green. One of my buddies, his luxury driving service. I did like maintenance, marketing, and sometimes I drive. And some of the early ones, no one else would want to do, and I would pick it up so that we could maintain. And also, if there was like specific guests they wanted to take really good care of, I got called, and so like I would wake up early and I'd drive. I also drove his guitarist to the airport, and it was cool just to like. He always loved sitting front seat. I don't know why, and he always loved messing with the radio. But he was just very down to earth. And
Yeah,
it
man.
seems a lot of these Texas guys are, and I think it's because they start in the honky tonks. They grow up having to work crowds and entertain. Then they learn once they actually start getting popularity and fame. Respectfully, like the assholes are always assholes.
Hmm.
That's not going to change. I'm not going to name names, but I've been told about certain people, and then I met them, and I was like, yeah, I get it, I get it. But a lot of these guys, I feel like they have so many strong fan bases in their area, and the
Hmm.
size of Texas helps because, like back in Arkansas, one we have like no honky tonks,
Hmm.
but I can come from a town of less than 3,000, and within like you'd have to drive like an hour to get 100,000.
Hmm.
Around here, I can come from a town of 3,000, and within like 20 minutes, I have a million people around me, you know? And so I think that keeps everyone it seems like even if they're faking it, they're very humble. They're very humble. But I don't know. I know too with you, I feel like I could write probably a paper on what you would say, but I'm curious, what would you give advice or like uh, insight with using social media? You can get to the technicalities and the nitty gritty and let someone really use this as like they want to hear you out, or just maybe just a mentality of like, how does social media play into it? Because there is that road dog mentality, and social media has messed up a lot, but I also feel like it's a consumer problem, right? And so where does the artist play into really maximizing that tool, but also not losing the artistry?
Yeah, not for me. I can't get too caught up in the numbers, like you mentioned earlier. I can't like count my likes and get too focused on. I also can't put too much effort really into the content, the memes or whatever stupid little video. If I'm like sitting and racking my brain and trying to like come up with a funny video to get 1,000 likes, I'm already way off.
Yeah.
I'm way off. I that's not my focus. My focus is writing good songs and playing good shows, great shows, hopefully, and writing great songs, hopefully. So if I'm putting too much time into some silly little video, for me, this is for me, because then yeah, I'm way off. And actually last night, a guy asked me, he was like, "Man, were you scared when they said they were going to ban TikTok?" And I was like, no, honestly, no, because it was just like, if it's not there, it's just not there. I'm not going to use it. So also just like holding on loosely to social media. It's cool and it can work, but it's not the end all be all. The end all be all is the song, and it's the show. Those two things are, so you also can't skip those steps, like you can't write your first song and then, I mean, because guys go viral off their first song all the time, but my advice is to don't skip the steps. Write a bunch of bad songs for a year, play those bad songs in venues for a year, and then start writing better songs. And then, and just focus on writing, focus on the craft. And then, hold on to social media loosely. Like if it works, it works. Also, just like having your own voice. Don't try and mimic some maybe content creators that are huge, because people can see through that. People can recognize authenticity. They also can recognize when you're like trying way too hard. I've had to delete videos because I went back and watched and I was like, dude, you're trying way too hard with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like not that, but I definitely feel like I look at some of my content too, and I realize I'm like, who are you fighting? Like,
Yeah.
what point? Like, I understand your point, but this is not the place. Like, you really thought you were saying something, and yeah, I just go back and delete it. Um, but I definitely, yeah, that's a really good point too, because I wasn't worried about TikTok either. To be honest, I deleted my app the night of, and I haven't re-downloaded it, so my account's still there. But
Hmm.
I just TikTok, I will say on the one side too is I don't like the algorithm.
Hmm.
It's too viral based to where like either like your own people following you can't even see your content. So
Right.
I'm just what's the point of having all this? It does help again explode. Like if you have a really good video, great. But then after that, you're not promised to stay in contact with your fans. So it's
Yeah.
like the only reason you do that is to flex on other people. To be honest, dude, that's been one of my worst parts. Is you've probably had folks say it too, but they're like, "Man, what's it feel like to have that many followers?" And I'm like, "It doesn't matter. I would literally delete my social media right now if there
Hmm.
was. And honestly, I'm not gonna say like there doesn't have to be something in return, but if someone was like, "Hey, I will get you this brand deal if you delete this," I'm like, "See ya, bye. I don't care." Like it's not holding on to it there. I think you use it right. It's social media, not like social supplement. It
Hmm.
doesn't make up for any bad skills you have as an artist or bad social skills you have. You still have to be a human. And also, if you're not working outside of it, what are you providing on social media?
Hmm.
You're just producing a false image, And
Yeah.
I also think it's very important, like you said, to write some bad songs. If your first song goes viral, cool, great. Honestly, props to you. But also, too many guys think that's their sound.
Hmm.
And they're not really artists, like you said. They kind of just repeat it because it's what went popular, and it's like you've never handled rejection,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of what you were looking at. It's like you got to have a crowd that doesn't work with you very well. You
Yeah.
got to be able to handle that, so that then when you are trying to share a message that might not be received initially, that's how those grades. I mean, that's how half of like Bob Dylan's songs got popular.
Hmm.
It's because he would say something super not controversial in a sense, but just kind of like middle fingers to you, and
Hmm.
everyone was like, "Whoa, okay, hold up." and then they're like, wait a second, and the next thing you know, it's an anthem for people, you know. But he had to be able to handle that rejection, and if you're not playing bad shows, you
Yeah.
can't handle that, you know.
Yeah, dude.
And so I don't know. People just I feel like too many people don't have their voice. But again, is that anything new? You know, with our faith, like nothing new is under the sun. So I'm curious too, in like 20 years, when studies come out showing, especially with music, of how artists in the 80s and artists today, like what was the same and what was different, and how did social media apply to that stuff, you
Hmm.
know? Um, but you were talking. I want to point it back to you. You were talking about Pat Green growing up, and I would love to hear more though about growing up and how finding Towns Van Zandt affected you, and where was growing up for you? Was that around Denton? Come on. Okay, so grew up in Fort Worth, um, and then take it from there. Like what big milestones do you see in like your upbringing and schooling, and then also those hobbies you had? Like
Hmm.
where do you see that you still take pride? Maybe not in who you were then, but
Hmm.
the things that those formed you. They're important,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I grew up in the church, so that was really important, especially, as far as music, performing in front of people. My dad was a pastor, uh, and my uncle was the youth pastor. My other uncle played bass on the worship team. My
Mm.
grandfather was a pastor. He went to the church as well. And so I started playing drums on the worship team. And so, you know, just being on a stage, playing music, interacting with people, with other musicians, musically learning that early on, but then also like developing like a rebellious sort of spirit, so that was the music that I was attracted to, was the music that reflected that sort of rebellion that I felt inside,
Hmm.
classic like pastor's kid. And yeah, and so it was like hip hop and like punk rock for a long time. And then when I was like 16, it was like 15 or 16, my group of friends, we all kind of, I don't even know how we decided, but we all decided we were going to go back to our roots. That's how we described it. It was basically just like throwing away our skateboard shoes and getting some like, boots and Wranglers. And we all of our like, a lot of us drove trucks. Like that was our first vehicles. And we all were like dipping Copenhagen, but we all like did it like at the same time. I don't know why. But it was cool. And so then we all started like listening to country music, and it was like Texas country. And it was such a cool, like, it was such a cool union, because I loved, I've always loved like my grandparents and family, and,
Hmm.
being outside. And so all that. And so country music has like a lot of those values, like family values, and, being outdoors and all that. But then it also has that rebellious spirit, which I didn't necessarily know about until I was like 16 and 17. And I found Pat Green singing about getting high. And then I heard like Cross Canadian Ragweed, and they had like crunchy, distorted guitars. And then I started like listening to Towns Van Zandt, and it's like, oh, he was like a crazy rock star kind of. And so, it was such a cool, yeah, it was a cool way of like two things coming together. And yeah, I started writing. I think I wrote my first song when I was like 16. The first song I learned on guitar, I think, was Willie Nelson. My heroes have always been cowboys. And yeah, I was just obsessed with it. Like, you know, and at first it was like kind of singer songwriter, like, but with some country flair. I don't know. And I kind of leaned into like the singer songwriter stuff for a long time. My first few shows were definitely like singer songwriter. I'm in the corner of like a coffee shop. I have a fedora on or something, Yeah, dude. And yeah, and then I moved to Austin, and as I started playing with like other musicians, steel guitar and throwing fiddle into the mix, that honky tonk sound that I really love, the George Strait and all that stuff, it just kind of started coming back. And yeah, man, that's where we're at now.
I love that. That actually leads exactly where I was trying to go, because we recently just dropped a cover of David Allan Coe and George Jones with
Yeah,
Josiah Spicer, right?
yeah.
And what's funny, he was also a pastor's kid, and he also loved the Outlaw era. and it was his way of kind of being rebellious, even though Grandpa listened to the same music.
Yeah.
But he kind of found the outlaw, 60s especially, which technically would be right before. Um, actually, I think he might have said 70s was the best. I
Just
digress.
Josiah loves 70s country. He probably said 70s.
I think he did, but then I'm thinking in it, he just dropped a video, and I'm pretty sure he said 60s. We're gonna hold him to it. Whatever we find, we're gonna hold him to it. Either way, y'all released this one, and I think y'all did really well to represent David Allan Coe and George Jones.
Thanks.
But I was always really curious because right now it's just so difficult. Every artist wants to be like, oh, I don't believe in genres. Like,
Hmm.
art is art. And I was like, you do realize you have a market, right? Like,
Hmm.
with genre's not genre, I'm going to throw you into the grungiest underground scene that is looking for metal, and you got to play that show. Let's see how you like that. That genres aren't genres, dude. Just play. Let's see how
Yeah.
they do. No, like you work to form your people. And that's who you go to. Now, it doesn't mean you can't cross over. I think that's what a lot of people are trying to say, but the way they say it, it's like they're trying to be kind of like hippy dippy. But what
Yeah.
I'm seeing right now, that the country scene is so broad that subgenres are so important. One, I think, to form regional styles. Because that was the beauty in Pat Green and Cross Canadian Ragweed and Wade Bowen and the whole, even just the whole Yellow House. Let's just put that together and the whole Red Dirt scene up there. But it was regional. It was proud. Like Texans and Okies were together and they were proud of this music, which like lifted them up to then be able to sing by the whole nation. And then all of a sudden it took over, right? And so I'm curious though how you see when it comes to your sound,
Hmm.
because you play country today, clearly. And Austin plays country today. Even looking at people like Jason Wayne, like he plays music today. And I hate when people try to compare. They try to put you in a box in the past, or they try to say, this person's saving country music. It's like, stop. That's so obnoxious.
Hmm.
But how would you qualify one country and western, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
It's and not many people know that, but there's an and then also how would you put what we call like Austin and also LA, a lot of those like the certain scenes they're pure honky tonk, but then you also have like Gilly honky tonks where Texas like George comes in, George Strait. But then you have the honky tonk that's like a dive bar, like a hole in the wall, and so how do you try to explain that to people, or how do you see it different, or am I just like, hey man, it's just country? Like where do you see, and how would you describe that type of things to people who aren't in the scene?
Yeah. I love talking about this. That's one of the things that I do love about country music so much is it's very regional and it's very nuanced. I mean, Buck Owens' way of playing guitar is so identifiable, and that influenced the Bakersfield sound, which is it's Bakersfield. It's if you grew up in Bakersfield, and you're playing country guitar, that's going to be your influence. If you go down to San Antonio, you're going to hear like Tejano mixed in with your country music, and then in Los Angeles, or it's just, it doesn't matter where you're at. We even hear it now. Like if I go down to San Antonio, like the bands that come out of San Antonio, even though they could be called country music, there's just a certain flair to those bands. In Austin, because the dance scene is so huge in Austin, the country music that comes out of there is more catered to the dancers that come out. So the rhythms, the tempos are going to reflect that. It's a beautiful thing. I don't think that I think it's okay to put not a box but parameters, genre parameters around your project, whether it's the band that you're in or a certain album or whatever. For me, it kind of helps the creative process, because I'm thinking within, I don't know. It's just it just gives me some parameters to work with. If the possibilities were endless when I wrote a song, I mean, it might come out a little kooky, you know. So I don't think there's anything wrong with like identifying yourself to a genre. especially country music. And to me, country music, it is a few different things. There's instrumentation that's involved in making a song country. I think that the subject matter is honest. I think there's a work ethic, there's values, but then I think that all of that can be, I don't know, it can all be substituted and taken out and added in different ways. And so in that way, it's also really beautiful because you have someone like Orville Peck. Orville Peck is a country artist. He's not singing about back roads and pickup trucks and, high school football games, but in my opinion, he's a country artist. His music's honest, it's vulnerable, and then also just like the instrumentation, it sounds like country songs and it sounds Western. So I don't know. That's kind of I have so many opinions on this stuff. It's kind of hard to funnel it down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I completely get that. And that's it's always difficult that way, but I think it's kind of wild to me to watch people who are so about, I'm not going to say virtue signaling, but they're so about welcoming other people that
Hmm.
they would discredit the people from the past. With Bakersfield, like the history of Bakersfield is Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana in the Great Depression, ending up in California, bringing
Yeah.
that music with them. I mean, even the start of country was Western Africa, Hawaiian, and Irish together, giving us the banjo, the steel guitar, and the fiddle. Like, we wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for these people. And to not put, like you say, kind of like, I call it fencing, cultural fences. I
Hmm.
describe everything of like shepherding and farming because we're country, but you don't put certain livestock together or they kill each other.
Yeah.
And that's not to say one is more important than the other two. That's a big thing we're not trying to do, but it's a fact of giving space and a creative space to a certain genre, like subgenre, is important because, like you said, it helps the creative process. It helps them also find other artists, and it helps them find their scene. Then from there, inside of those restrictions, they actually, the beautiful thing is they learn how to break them. They
Yeah.
learn how to truly evolve the genre because then they say, I love representing Buck Owens, but I'm not a Buck Owens impersonator. I play like him, but you know what? I also know that this is what makes this Bakersfield sound now. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to add in some of my past. And that was also what Buck Owens actually did. Speaking on the Bakersfield sound, was he added in the Baja like influences that they had out there, and it worked perfectly. It was beautiful to watch. And also even down here in Texas, that's what I love is we have like 6 different regions and they're all, like you're saying, completely influenced. I think the big thing though, again, is I'm still trying to comprehend how to explain to people that there's like honky tonking and then there's like Texas Gillies type honky tonking. And it's not there's Nashville, like cosmopolitan country,
Hmm.
where it's like they're all kind of different,
Hmm.
but yet we're all on the same team. And that's why I try to bring a lot of people to your attention because, or you to a lot of people's attention because you really encapsulate a lot of the good qualities of those traditional honky tonks that, like you were saying in Austin, that have that swing type
Hmm.
play. And you still, though, you do well to honor Waylon and other guys with covers. And yeah, I'm really excited to keep seeing what you're doing, man. Like
Thank you.
we could talk for another 2 hours on all this. And honestly, that's the beautiful thing about a podcast is who knows down the road we might pull you in just to talk and discuss about genres and stuff we're doing there. I also later on I'd love to dive even deeper in on being a pastor's kid because maybe we have some shared experiences with Under Oath or Reliant K. Uh,
I still listen to.
oh, dude, I think I loved Under Oath. I loved any really like that was my rebellious. That's how I did it. Is I listened to metal, but I also Riot K is probably like all time favorite band. Their album I think is seriously I think it's a all time across genres. I think it's a top 10 album. Like it's so difficult to beat. That's a different discussion. I digress. It's about you, and so um, it's always fun talking to you, man. But I want to see about getting out there. I want to get these people out here to see you. Do you have any shows ending, February out, going into March? Do you have any big projects besides, now it'll be a month with our song with Josiah? What do you got for these people, and where can they follow you?
Man, we just finished tracking our next full length album. So
Come on,
yeah, first single will be out March 7th. That's "Kissing the Boots."
I
That's
love it.
song "Kissing the Boots" that are walking all over me. That single will be out on the 7th. We just did a live music video down in Austin, and so that's on YouTube now. But the official like studio single will be out March 7th, and then we'll start rolling out singles every few weeks off the new album, which will be out in September. But yeah, and we play. I mean, we just rolled in hot from Austin like an hour ago, so we were down there this weekend. I mean, we're playing 3 or 4 shows a week, so yeah.
And I also shout out Pearls. You had a great music video there. We
Oh yeah,
always love Madam Pearls on the yards.
yeah,
What social media can they follow you on, or that website you were talking about?
yeah. Cory Cross Music is my website, and then I mean Instagram and TikTok.
Perfect. We're recording this on February 9th, which is Super Bowl Sunday, and I'm curious if you want to make a uh, guess on who's going to take it, and then we can call back to it in 3 weeks.
I have not. I mean, I watched a little bit of the Chiefs because my drummer is a Chiefs fan, but I don't really have. I mean, I'm not knowledgeable enough to make any predictions. I do think that Kendrick Lamar is going to bring out Lil Wayne, and me and my wife, she's from Louisiana. We're hoping that he brings out Boosie too. So I'm really hoping that those predictions come true.
That's a prediction we care about.
I'm pretty sure Lil Wayne's going to have something going on. So.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere with that commercial. We would love to see that happen, but we'll keep that in mind and we'll call it back if it happens. But dude, it's always a pleasure having you on here. We're gonna have you on here a lot more, and I look forward to seeing you around town, brother.
All right, man. Thanks.